Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. A few years ago, while we were all going through the pandemic and shut down everything, it impacted everyone and caused great social and economic consequences. Not the case for today's guest, because this guy here took that time to be productive. He recorded his first full-length album. He's a talented singer, songwriter, producer, and all-around cool guy. He's better known as Blak Emoji. Will you please welcome my friend Kelsey Warren? Welcome aboard, Kelsey.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you.
I'm excited to have you on the show. I read that you grew up in southern New Jersey, started off on piano concertos and jazz guitar standards, and then drums and other instruments, and your bio says that you got addicted to hip-hop, funk, and minimalist classical. That's quite a broad spectrum right there. And you have a dense love for electronic music and synth inspiration bands such as Kraftwerk, Prince, and Nine Inch Nails. Would you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, I like to call it music schizophrenia. I started out on drums at 5 years old. My mom got me a drum set, and that was my first love. I'm a awful drummer now, but that was, the catalyst for me just wanting to, learn many different instruments. I started playing guitar. I had jazz lessons. And rock lessons, so that was that. Piano, my mom was like, you should learn piano, and I was like, oh, I don't know. Bottom line, I had a mom who was really gung-ho about her kid wanting to do music. So it was never, try to do something else, or don't play too loud. It was totally opposite. So from a young age, I got to, jump into the sandbox very early, and I just loved so many different styles of music. There was a lot of soul, R&B was like everybody listened to in the home. My brother kind of leaned a little bit more towards jazz fusion and alternative rock, and then my sister to more pop and cabaret. And then you go to school and you meet all the cool kids that get you in the Joy Division and stuff like that, and I just loved music so much.
Awesome. I really love hearing stories like that. Where did the moniker, your alter ego Blak Emoji come from? How did that become an entity?
I was high smoking with some friends, and
okay.
Yeah, it's a true story. And this was probably before the time of when, Blak Emojis are it's common now, they're everywhere. But there wasn't a lot, we had to fight to get those Blak Emojis. And we were talking about emojis and memes and, the things changing. And I was like, how come there's not many Blak Emojis? And everyone's high. So we're all like, yeah, wow, that's really deep. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? That's it. That's how the name came out. It's not deep at all.
I like it. By the way, he spells it B-L-A-K, just like I spell mine Rick, and I always tell everyone I couldn't afford all the letters.
Yeah. I say, yeah.
So there you go.
The Blak Emoji with the C was already taken as far as the URL.
The things we do for social medians.
I know. It's funny, like these stories, it's kind of like, oh, how'd you get the name? And how, it's just like, should I not tell them? Because does this kill the dream?
No, that's just it. You think, oh, wow, it's something really, really deep, something very, very philosophical. That hyperlink was taken.
But yeah. And it's like, oh, wow. Boo.
All right, let's talk about an album here. Blak Emoji's Eclectro, the deluxe edition, is now out on the ECR Music Group. It was written and recorded during the pandemic of 20 and 21. Not a happy time for us. But besides the daily drama of not getting the virus, what were the other challenges of recording Eclectro?
Well, it's interesting, and it's, I had this conversation with people about the pandemic. For me, there wasn't a problem. It was the first time I kind of just had time, because time stopped for all of us.
Yeah.
You're a musician, I was on tour. I was in Paris. And then I heard about the pandemic, and it was starting to, word spread, but it wasn't that deep. I was meeting strangers, kissing people. I didn't care. I'm like, oh, come here. By the time I got to London, which was about, I don't know, maybe March 10th, things started to get very heavy. And it was like, this isn't good. And then I started to get the calls like, you got to come back. You got to come back home. So I got back home right before the border closed.
Oh, I know. I was just going to ask you, did you make it before? Okay, good.
I made it right before. I heard about the announcement. I'm like, I'm on the plane. I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. So I got here just in time. It was like, got the text, like, yeah, you're here? I'm like, yeah, I landed in the U.S. Good. Come home, get safe, get some toilet paper. What? That was really what happened. And that was it. And it was like, well, shit. My there's no more shows. My mercenary work was done. There was no job for me to do.
Right.
I'm already kind of just addicted to making music on my computer a lot for the last few years. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, well, that's what makes me the most happy. It's basically, I recorded so much because it was therapeutic. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really anything deeper. I was like, look, the world's falling apart. I'm losing friends. People are dying, literally. That sucked. That was the only thing that sucked about the pandemic for me personally. Losing. I lost 5 people. Yeah. So it was awful. But I had time, a little bit of money. I had food. I had a roof over my head. I had good people. We had the internet. The internet was like, people could say the pluses and minus with it, but right then it was like a big plus. We couldn't see people. We couldn't do certain things, but you could see people online. Mm-hmm. I would get calls from friends, and one guy, Jason Caddick, who did a side project thing called Password Doomsday. He's like, hey man, remember that project we talked about doing? You want to do it? And I'm like, yeah, because we both had time to sit down and do it. With the Blak Emoji stuff, actually I did an album before, and I finished it in March. Mm-hmm. So that was my second Blak Emoji album called Antidote. And then I started working on Eclectro, just sporadically. And, I had time to sit and let that album marinate for a while. I got to really get into the production more than I did with previous albums. I got to take time with it. I'm usually rushed, whether I'm in a big studio or even I'm rushing myself at home. I didn't rush with Eclectro. I had time to really, really sit and cook this dish with all the right spices, as opposed to rushing this dish and it has to be out of the oven in like 1 hour.
All right. Very good. We're going to serve up a little song from Eclectro. It's the first song. It is Mainstay. Can you give us the backstory on Mainstay?
Mainstay. That one came after I completed Eclectro.
Is that the way it always is?
Yeah. Blake. The cool thing about ECR was kind of like, okay, we're going to re-release some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. You want to add some bonus tracks? And I was like, yeah, I do. So I had some stuff lying around from the Eclectro sessions, but this was like totally new, and I wanted it to fit the vibe of the album. And I think it does. It's just a song about being there for somebody, and being the backbone when things are going crazy.
All right, we're going to feature that right now from the album Eclectro. Here's Mainstay from Blak Emoji on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
Take a shot while the pills kick in. You lost the plot and can't read lines of revision. Skeptical with reason, truth behind the screen, damage from the lie. Fall back 4 times the charm. You got 5 more lives to go. I don't fuck up. Angle, bone, and analyze. Capture future, hypnotize, prevent the next mistake. Then defines the roads and soon will occupy. Erase the complicated. Forever don't exist. So you make the best of this. Even in the dark, there's room for some light and more bliss. Don't forget this. That I'm not affected.
great music from the album Eclectro featuring Kelsey Warren. The song is called Mainstay. I like that, and I know you're going to like it too. Well, before we continue, I'd like to thank everybody for listening in today to the Someone You Should Know podcast. I remind you that we are on the web at Someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. There you'll find recent news, our archive of past shows, and a whole lot more. Plus, we invite you to leave us a review and rate the podcast. That always helps us big time. And we want to thank everybody for listening around the world. Yes, the only continent I don't think we've hit right now is Antarctica, but we're working on that. I want to salute Victoria, British Columbia, and Crescent City, California. Thanks for listening in today. And let's get back to our interview with Kelsey Warren, a.k.a. Blak Emoji. Recently, we talked I had Blake Morgan on the show, and he told me all about you. He thinks the world of you, and tell me about your involvement with the ECR music group and Blake.
I freaking love that dude. I guess I got in through ECR, or knew about ECR and Blake through Yanita. She was doing, I forgot what, it was a music conference here, and I just heard her music that day. And then I found out she was playing at Rockwood, and I rushed over, and I was, from day one, I've been a super fan of her music, like hardcore. You know, when you have friends and they mention those 2 or 3 artists that you should be listening to, it was always her and Fantastic Negrito around that time. So I was going to Yanita shows like crazy. And the cool thing about Yanita is like she'll do a show by herself. She'll do a show with Blake. She'll do a show with the band. So it's like you got different experiences. They were doing a lot of the 2 guitar shows at the time. And I was like, wow, the 2 guitar action here is just pristine. Like it's on point. They sounded kind of like peanut butter and jelly. You know, sometimes somebody gets on stage with somebody and it doesn't really gel.
Right.
And it just sounded like one big, beautiful sound, like these guys know what the fuck they're doing. So I met Blake and found out that, he produced Didn't You, My Dear, which still blows me away. That album, I love everything about it. I think the songs are incredible. You know, I always say Yanita's my Joni Mitchell and PJ Harvey in one person. And then the production is so good because it's not too big, but it's not too minimal. It's like right in the middle, the sounds are so great. Everything about that record to me is perfect. And then I just started listening to Blake's music. I was like, wow, this shit's really good too.
Yeah.
And then just other artists he's worked with, and we became friends. And, you know, Blake and I would basically just go somewhere to a bar, or we would eat, and we'll talk about music for 5 hours. It's kind of like, you know, just 2 kids like, did you hear this? And no, did you hear? You know, that's our relationship. So being on ECR, it's kind of cool because it's like, you know, it's a family thing. You know, and I met David Poe just last month, and he's another guy whose music is he's just on another level as far as songwriting, you know, and Blake too. So it's kind of like I'm in this beautiful family with these amazing writers and just people that I just want to hang out with as friends, but they're still about the business.
Right.
You know, it's still, you know, it's all those things lined up. And it was cool just for, you know, him to say, let's re-release stuff from your catalog that, you know, people probably did not hear. I know he did that for his catalog when he got everything, you know, taken care of and rights and stuff like that.
It popped up in, my wife was the one that heard his song and said, holy cow, you got to get this guy on the show. So I did. And next thing you know, we're working with ECR, and we're going to start knocking out just about everybody on the label who wants to be on the show. And we do appreciate that. And Natalie and the crew over there, we do appreciate that. Eclectro has garnered some really nice reviews in the trades. What would you say your high watermark is today so far?
Well, the tape op interview definitely changed a lot for me. That was kind of cool. And it was, you know, I did that interview probably a couple months before it dropped, and that was like my last big interview, and it came out, and it was just like I was just getting these emails, and texts and stuff. And it was a dream come true because I love that magazine.
Awesome.
You know,
Very good.
If you're a sound nerd, that magazine is your Bible. And I love that it was an interview where it wasn't just about sound. It was also really about songwriting. So that and the Clash magazine reviews were definitely really cool, and put Blak Emoji on a map where it wasn't before. And there was more of an interest in Inkling stuff because of that. I would probably say that for this album. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for that, for those bumps, man.
Awesome,
really cool.
Awesome. Hopefully this interview will knock you up another notch too.
All about it, brother. Thank you.
Another song we're going to feature from Eclectro is "Last Night Lost." What's the story on this beautiful song?
Last Night Lost is just nothing about two people. They just want to go out and have a good time because the world may end, as we know, and you never know if there's going to be tomorrow. So make your today and make your tonight the best that you can.
All right. Here it is right now. Last Night Lost from Blak Emoji from the album called Eclectro right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
Upscale but not pretentious or too loud. Feeling laid back, relaxed but also insane. Love in the dark, let's raise our glasses for us. Hey, hey, let's raise our glasses for us. Let's raise our glasses. Mystery.
Another great song from Blak Emoji. The album is called Eclectro. It's a deluxe edition that's now available on ECR Music Group. That song is called Last Night Lost right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast. We're speaking with Kelsey Warren today. And this next section is probably my favorite portion of the show. This is where we look at those moments in your career where things didn't go as well. You do a lot of load-ins, a lot of load-outs. Things go crazy on the stage sometimes. Sometimes things go right, what they're supposed to do. But we're looking at this thing called Tales from the Road. Those are those infamous road stories of things that happen getting to a gig, things that happen at a gig. What would you think Kelsey Warren or Blak Emoji's Tales from the Road would be?
Oh, wow. We could do a whole show on
Give me a couple. Give me a couple, all right?
all right, a couple. There was one time, again, Herb was involved. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to
It's not a problem. Not a problem.
It's like, is this guy high every day? No, I'm not.
It works for Snoop. It works for Willie Nelson.
Works for Snoop and Willie. Yes, Willie celebrate like what? I mean, he's been doing it for 60-something years.
And he just turned 90.
Right. Yes. God bless, man. Two of the coolest people on the planet. So yeah. So we weren't that high, but we were up there. And I was in LA. I had a show at the Whiskey. And
what a gig.
Yeah, it was fun. That's a whole nother story too. But on the way to the gig, there was some kind of issue with equipment that wasn't there, like you're saying, and then we didn't have it. We had to call SIR, and it was just crazy, and it was stressful and stressful and stressful. And the driver who I had at the time, the guy, a friend of mine, this guy Zach, and we're just like not happy. And we get to the venue, and he closes the door, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Can you open the back so I can get my stuff?"
No. Oh no.
And he's like,
"Oh no. Oh no."
"Oh, dude, I left the keys." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me, bro?" So the keys are in the van. We can't get in. We're there for sound check, so we missed sound check.
Oh my.
People are yelling. It's just awful. It was bad. I don't even remember what happened because I was gone for the rest of the day, but how we got the keys. I do remember after somehow when we got the equipment and stuff and setting up beforehand, we took a drive because then we had like hours.
Yeah.
This is not a bad story. It's just I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but it just came to my brain, and we're driving and we're arguing and we're switching the radio, and then Us Versus Them, Pink Floyd comes on, and it was like the whole mood just changed. Like, man, I love you, homie. He's like, I love you too, brother. It's like it was that thing, and it's just again the power of music just saved a crazy, crazy, crazy night. Do you want one more story?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. That was really good. Bye-bye. Kudos to Roger Waters and David Gilmour.
Yes. Yeah, for making one of the best albums ever made.
Gotta love Dark Side of the Moon, man.
Yes, yeah.
All
Again,
right.
Never gets old.
All right, give us one more.
This is not a tour. This is just a show story.
Okay.
If that counts. And because it was in New York, I'm from New York, but it was a showcase for a label and like one of the BMG subsidiaries. And I decided, because this is like, I don't know, maybe 2010, before there was Blak Emoji. There's a group I was in, and I was still kind of doing weird things and rocking pleather on stage. So I got these pleather pants for this show, and everything at this show went wrong. I don't know how this happened, but something happened with the drummer, and the cymbal fell off. But the cymbal fell off and literally cut the 1/4-inch cable of the bass player. So the bass stopped because the cymbal cut the 1/4-inch. You can't make this up. It's freaking
Oh yeah,
final.
I believe it. I totally believe it.
So we had to get another. Oh, and it's a label showcase, by the way. So didn't look good. The pants, luckily I strapped my guitar a little low, and my pants ripped in the front. And,
Something for the ladies. Huh?
Something for the ladies, but not for the label. I had a guitar covering it, but it was like at that moment, my face changed, and I'm like, oh no, this is awful. So I was just trying to get off the stage and finish this show so I could find some new pants. We did not get signed that night at all.
That's a shame. That's a shame. Things happen like that. I had a friend of mine that played a big showcase in New York City. He was actually playing at Central Park. Goes out there to play the very first chord, and all of a sudden the cable pulls out from the amp. So he's doing a Pete Townsend windmill, and nothing comes out.
That's funny. That's sad, but funny.
Oh, I love those kind of stories, and that was your Tales from the Road. Let's talk about how people can find you. Social media, your website. Give us a rundown of those, please.
Sure. You can find us. I'm on Instagram a lot,
Okay.
so I always say at blak.emoji for Instagram, and it's just at Blak Emoji with no dot for Twitter, Facebook, and it's blakemoji.com.
All right. I will include those in the show notes, so if anyone is listening in their car right now, you don't get in an accident trying to write it down. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add to the show here before we close up shop for today?
Thank you. Thank you.
No. Well, that's no problem. I'm so glad to have you on the show. The final song we're going to feature was the one that actually first came to me, was the one that really turned me on to you. It's called Bloodshot Red. What is the story on this great song?
Oh, man, that's about being bored during the pandemic. That's that whole song I'm trying to capture within 3 minutes of just like, okay, I'm going crazy, but I'm having a good time. This is weird, but this is all right. That's Bloodshot Red.
All right, very good. We're going to wrap the show with that, and I thank you so much for being part of the growing family of Someone You Should Know podcast guests. Blak Emoji featuring Kelsey Warren, my friend. God bless you. Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Friday night, you're alone, thirsty and kind of bored. You can't find any drugs, no, and out of vino from the cabinet. Pause the documentary for the coffee that they're spilling pour. Nobody listening, but just a part of the score. Candlelight with the window open, your glasses reflect the moonlight dripping. This is isolation, but I'm not depressed. I stay out of trouble, but not getting dragged. I know the quarantine is over, but I'm still gonna hibernate, swallow the fruit and stay
I
home.
don't know from the thoughts inside my head. It's the reason I laugh out alone instead. Toss and turn, half asleep in my bed. I sigh and breathe with my eyes bloodshot red. I don't know from the thoughts inside my head. It's the reason I laugh out alone instead. Toss and turn, half asleep in my bed. I sigh and breathe with my eyes bloodshot red.
Planking and exercising, keep my shit tight. Wish I could call myself to accomplish more tonight. My brain spins out of control sometimes, but it comes around again every time. Not gonna lie, wish I was doing this with you. You are playing right away. I know we'll be together again someday. You make me wanna buy first class, second minute, hour for your body. That's an hourglass.
I don't know from the thoughts inside my head. That's the reason I laugh out alone instead. Toss and turn, half asleep in my bed. I sigh and breathe with my eyes bloodshot red. I don't know from the thoughts inside my head. That's the reason I laugh out alone instead. Toss and turn, half asleep in my bed. I sigh and breathe with my eyes bloodshot red. The ghosts are tumbling in my head, but I don't mind. Tame the beast describing what it sees when he's so blind. Isolation, not depression. Sometimes just tongue-tied. Staying home, out of trouble, unless you were here tonight. Unless you were here tonight. Unless you were here, yeah.
Like an extrovert with introvert tendencies.
La 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 la.
Sometimes I'm less for everybody, 'cause I need to be there more for me.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.